You've seen the movies. You've played the games. Knights in shining armor, epic battles saving the day. It looks pretty cool, right? Like the ultimate medieval job. Well, buckle up, Buttercup, because the reality of being a knight was less heroic legend and more professional human punching bag. Let's talk about why knighthood was actually kind of terrible. First off, you didn't just decide to be a knight one morning, it was a whole process. A long, often unpleasant process. You started young, like 7 years old young. You'd be sent away from home to become a page in a noble household. Your job? Basically a servant. You'd run errands, clean armor, serve meals, and learn basic manners. Think of it as medieval boarding school, but with more chores and less algebra. Then, around age 14, you'd become a squire. This was slightly better, but still involved a lot of servitude. You'd assist a knight, carry his gear, care for his horse, and generally be his personal assistant. You also started serious combat training. Sword fighting, jousting practice, wrestling in the mud, all while still doing chores. Finally, if you survived all that and proved yourself worthy, usually around age 21, you might get knighted. Congratulations. Your reward is a lifetime of potential dismemberment. That shiny armor looks impressive. It really does. But wearing it? Imagine trying to run a marathon while wrapped in a metal refrigerator. Full plate armor could weigh 50 to 60 pounds. That's like carrying a small person on your back all day. Moving in, it was exhausting. Every step, every swing of a sword was a massive effort. Going to the bathroom was a logistical nightmare requiring assistance. Don't even ask about scratching an itch. And if you fell off your horse, you were basically a heavily armored turtle flipped on its back. Good luck getting up before someone decided to poke you with a spear. It offered protection, sure, but at the cost of mobility and basic human comfort. Hollywood battles are choreographed dances with dramatic music. Real medieval combat was pure, unadulterated chaos and horror. It was loud, screaming men, clashing steel, dying horses. It was messy, blood, mud, and things you really don't want to step in. Weapons weren't designed for elegant duels. They were designed to inflict maximum damage through armor. Maces to crush bones, axes to cleave through shields, warhammers to dent plate and turn your insides to jelly. Getting hit, even with armor, was brutal. Concussions, broken limbs, internal injuries were common. And if you went down, you were incredibly vulnerable. A knight on the ground was often a dead knight. When you weren't fighting, you might be living in a castle. Sounds grand, right? Wrong again. Castles were cold, damp, and drafty. Heating was minimal, usually just fireplaces that filled the room with smoke. Sanitation was primitive. Let's just say indoor plumbing wasn't a thing, and hygiene standards were low. You shared space with lots of people, animals, and probably more than a few rats. Privacy was non-existent. It was basically communal living in a stone box. You've heard of the code of chivalry. Be brave, be honorable, protect the weak, respect women. It was a nice ideal, but like many ideals, the reality often fell short. Knights were warriors. Their job involved violence. While some strove for noble behavior, many were perfectly happy to loot villages, terrorize peasants, and engage in petty feuds. The code was often applied selectively. You might be chivalrous to a captured enemy knight, but feel free to burn down the local farmer's house on the way home. So, while the concept existed, don't imagine every knight was a shining example of virtue. Many were just well-armed thugs with fancy titles. When there wasn't a war, knights still needed to practice and show off. Enter the tournament. Jousting, melee combat, it was all part of the fun, and it was incredibly dangerous. Getting hit by a lance while charging on a horse was basically a controlled car crash. Broken bones, internal injuries, and death were common outcomes. Even the melee, a free-for-all fight, was brutal. It was a chance to capture opponents for ransom, which often involved beating them into submission. It was entertainment, yes, but it was also incredibly risky business for the participants. Beyond the battles and tournaments, daily life wasn't glamorous. You were often traveling, marching long distances in that heavy armor, or riding for days. Food could be monotonous and prone to spoilage. Disease was a constant threat. A simple cut could become infected and kill you. Dysentery was a common occupational hazard. There was no modern medicine, no pain relievers, and definitely no dental plan. You were constantly exposed to the elements, dirt, and the general unpleasantness of medieval life. Given all that, why would anyone want to be a knight? Simple: status, power, and potential wealth. Knighthood elevated you in society. You were part of the nobility, even if a lower rank. It offered opportunities for land, titles, and influence. A successful knight could become a lord, securing his family's future. There was also the pursuit of honor and glory, the chance to make a name for yourself through martial prowess. And let's be honest, it beat being a peasant. So the next time you see a knight in a movie, remember the reality. Behind the cool armor was a person who was probably tired, sore, hungry, and constantly worried about dying from a sword, an arrow, or just a bad case of the flu. They were tough, no doubt, but their lives were far from the romantic ideal we often imagine. It was a life of hardship, violence, and discomfort, all for the chance of glory or a slightly better life. Thanks for watching! Would you trade your modern comforts for a shot at medieval knighthood? Let us know in the comments below.